seconds, Vance, and then once you see it, we'll just get it rolling. Everybody know we're here for just instant reactions. You know, kind of like what Nick said before. We just using our man football brain, not necessarily analytical or nothing like that. And then once you see it, so yeah, we live now.
And almost, so let's get into it, bro. Guys, Happy New Year, first of all.
25 things around
TJ,
for the 25 rotations around the sun, bro. It's crazy. So
I'm good. And unfortunately, as we talked about before went live, had some foolishness go down in TJ City last night. RP to everybody that unfortunately lost their lives there and caused that game to move back. Obviously, we said we would go live then, but with due to the unforeseen circumstances there and Oregon getting the belt to their ass, we decided to go live now and going to talk about these first two games from the college football playoff. And I feel like there's nobody to get us started talking about our first game more equipped to talk about it than my brother Vance. So Vance, tell me how you was feeling along that roller coaster of a fourth quarter in that
Yeah,
UT Arizona State game,
yeah,
even though
man.
y'all
What's crazy?
sacrificed number 5 for Arizona
We
State.
we gave them every opportunity to win that game, man. Our kicker, listen, I guarantee there were some death threats going on, and when he get back to that dorm room, it's not gonna be pretty, bro. His teammates would have jumped him in the locker room if they would have lost that game. Hell, he would have got jumped as soon as he got out the plane back here in Austin. But with that being said, bro, survive in advance. That's what we doing. I don't know if we're gonna survive next week, but I like what I saw. I like what I saw from the defense. They played hard. Listen, Scatterboo, I give you all your credit, all your praise. You deserve it, bro. You are him. I would listen. But Texas, they had the more complete team. So I like what I saw personally. Listen, you never want to be in a close game, blowout, but a win is a win.
that respect.
Yeah, that.
You got another you're not the only Texan in the chat, man. You know what I'm saying? If I can, I love to tap in on our wonderful great state that we live in. Yeah, like I said, I got working with the CA. I got to see Scatterboo versus Mississippi State in week 2. Obviously, when he was much less of a known commodity, and you never know how I don't know the bully ball. I'm bigger and tougher. You type of stuff would translate as the competition elevates. But
Mm-hmm.
seeing him run through it, I mean, say shout out Jeff Libby. I don't know how much longer he'll be there. But Mississippi State still is an SEC team, and what I saw him do to a quote unquote SEC defense was outright disrespectful. So I definitely was, a little early to the party in terms of like, hey, this guy could be a problem. And I saw that again. You never know how mobility and the ability to make plays outside of the pocket, how that can go drastic pretty left. Again, once the competition elevates. But Sam Levitt, that was a guy that I was almost more impressed with him when I saw him play state than Scatterboo, because we know whether we see the Manziel Watson dynamic in the national championship, we know that those mobile passes always give you a puncher's chance. So that was something they were already obviously never knew that they could get to this level of success this year, but they was always a team that I knew it had a puncher's chance against any team in the Big 12. So coming down to it, like Vance said, UT did everything they could to get that game away. And it's kind of it's aligned essentially with some of the other narratives or some of the other ways we've seen these games play out. The more talented team won in the end. It's not like football ain't like basketball, so you can have you can be saved by threes, or you can have some unsustainably remarkable performance. For the most part, 8 out of 10 times, the better, more talented football team is going to win if you play the game out over a 48 minute a 60 minute stretch. And that's what happened. But the one thing that I will say going forward, we love Sark. I think Texas, may be up there with Ohio State in terms of completeness, complete teams. We talk about what they can do on both sides of the ball, both sides of the trenches. Obviously, we'll see what the health and status of Kelvin Banks is. But the one thing that you cannot replicate is toughness. And we know all the things that Sark does, being an offensive mind, he doesn't lean into the toughness of his team. And Arizona State just out tough Texas in the second half. That's all that it came down to. Obviously, had the
Shit, the whole game, really, if you ask me.
You
Uh,
mean, do you say that do you have the team that's getting out tough having a 2-score lead? Because I feel you personally, but that Texas defense they were the big bullies in the first half. But
yeah, yeah.
then
No,
with
they
No, no,
dominated
no,
the first. They
no.
dominated the first
I,
three quarters, in
I,
my opinion. In the fourth
I
quarter,
agree that
ASU turned up. What you say, Nick?
Texas dominated the game, but Texas never dominated to the point that they should have and put Arizona State away. And I think a big part of that is because Texas lacks the toughness to kind of go back to what Josh said. This is a team that playing Arizona State, Texas's offensive line on average outweighed Arizona State's defensive line by 60 pounds.
Yeah.
Yet Texas only ran for 53 yards on the game.
No, they got
Their
pumped
starting
for
running back
sure.
Wisner 18 carries for 45 yards. And for me, my biggest takeaway from this game is if Texas can't run the ball, I don't think trusting Quinn Ewers to drop back and throw the ball 30 times a game is a winning formula for Texas, especially looking at the next round, having to play Ohio State.
I mean, did we learn? I mean, I feel like we learned that when the second time that they lost to Georgia in that same faction. Like I said, once that Texas O line and oh God, what's the like Banks going down, the guy that replaced him in the SEC championship game, Ugubi, and the guy that he started at right tackle today. He looks like a decent swing tackle, but it comes down to it, like you said, Nick. If Texas can't win the line of scrimmage and win it convincingly, more than likely they're not going to win the game. Like I said, you got all your skill pieces on offense. You got Moore, you got Wingo, you got Weissner, you got guys to make it happen. But Texas offensive line simply does not give those guys an opportunity to make those dynamic plays, especially when you're talking about 5-step drops, long developing routes downfield. They are more reliant on that offensive line to provide that spark than other teams, to where you look like Oregon or Jeremiah Smith, to where you can bubble, throw it out to your perimeter guy, make one miss and make it happen. They don't have the offensive personnel, and Sark's offense is not really set up like that. They thrive more on chunk plays, long developing routes, and but more being able to get you in those off balance down the distances by using that offensive line. So they're a dynamic offense, but they're not dynamic in the traditional sense, I would say.
I mean, Sark is the king of misdirection. And the O-line, they did get punked. Literally, the only time we really just saw them get punked was against Georgia, particularly in that first line they played against each other. But with that being said, bro, it's like we're working on 2 weeks now of y'all just continuously to hating on Texas. So at what point are y'all going to just be able to lean into what they do well, like the misdirection? The defense was strong. The O-line, listen, it is a weakness, but they do a lot of other things really great. So why can't? And they're in the Final Four. So when will they finally get props? What will it take for y'all to give them props?
Beat a team that's more talented than them. At this point, I think that
how many teams are more talented than
them? Defensively, maybe one, maybe Ohio State. But no, I feel you. But I think the point is we need to see, especially the offense, work from be able to fight out of a place of disadvantage. Like for the most part, at least for a national champion, we see what Ohio State done now and their response back to Oregon. Even see what we saw with Penn State. I mean, they were in a similar situation to y'all in terms of playing below their talent, or playing down the competition. But we see how they reacted in the second half in terms of being able to put a Boise team away. So I just think that we need to see this Texas team deal with some adversity and overcome it in a way that makes us feel comfortable. And don't act like it's, we do the same thing in the NFL. How much time have we spent on this podcast lamenting the Chiefs and the Eagles, things at the top of the league? There is a way to win that is more aesthetically pleasing and inspires more confidence in the way that y'all doing it. So you're right. A win is a win for sure, but don't expect us to, have that level of confidence that we feel like this might be the best team in the country. When even I think it's self-admitted, they've been scraping by the past 2 weeks.
Scraping by.
I mean, I'll be.
But yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. To answer your question, I'll be satisfied when they at home watching the game like I am, bro.
You could. He just an elite hater. Like we respect transparency on the first day of 25.
And what's crazy though? You say I'm a hater, but like my family, we always do New Year's together, and I was sitting there, bro, and I found myself defending Quinn Ewers, bro. So you say I'm a hater, but I'm a Quinn Ewers.
You are a hater. Y'all picked Texas to lose to SMU, so let's not act like y'all not.
I didn't say that.
Clemson.
I didn't say that. Oh, Clemson. Yeah, Clemson. Yeah.
Clemson. SMU.
I mean, before today, they played the best game. They jumped on them. You can't act like they just laid down and took it. They played the best game against Texas They played the best playoff game
Exactly.
until yesterday. Like they did jump on them first. They almost came back with the goal line, and it's not like, yeah, okay, if we picked them to win, yeah, wrong, you got it. But like, you can't dress it up like they just beat the piss out of Clemson and
I mean,
like
they beat them pretty handily, convincingly.
I wouldn't say it was
I
14.
would. What do you?
It's 14
That
convincing.
fourth the
It
game
was
wasn't
convincing.
decided.
It's not a
Yeah,
blowout. I
exactly.
was about to say.
That 4th and 1 gave y'all the
I'm
win
about to
with
say they still
in the
had 5
at the end of
minutes
the fourth
left.
quarter.
Yeah,
The
that
game was
14 is not.
We had a 3-score lead, and they cut it down to 2 scores.
Yeah, but they also had the lead.
In the
And
first
y'all
quarter,
had
the
a
first drive of the game. Let's be for real.
y'all had a 24-8 lead against Arizona State, and what happened to that?
Listen, and we won.
I think
Y'all
that
won, and I give
We
y'all
should
credit
have
for
won a
winning that game. I give
regulation.
y'all
Like,
credit.
what are we talking about?
I mean, I think
Twice.
you look at the Arizona State game today, and I'm not speaking for everybody, but even that level again of overcoming adversity and being able to respond to a tough situation, rightfully or wrongfully, when your best, I don't know, conference win is I say A&M, Arkansas for most of the year, they haven't been put in a lot of situations to where that adversity has had they have had to show their mettle. So that's what we're looking for, really. And again, I mean, Penn State isn't, I don't know, y'all not as bad as Penn State to where it's almost despicable that those 2 wins that they have count as playoff wins. But I think that I would have to say, outright that, Texas, I don't know. For the first 2 games, they're doing what they're supposed to do, beating teams that they're more talented than. So we're not, that doesn't really sway people in terms of a potential national champion.
Yeah, and they're like they lose focus in these games. Like if they up 24-8, like Nick was talking about, once it was 21-3, it was 14-3. It should have been 21-3 because they got the ball back and they kind of like we were watching the game like this game is boring as hell. I don't think anyone scored from the end of the second till like the beginning. It was like 17-3 for like I'm sorry, whatever the score was. It was like 17-5 for like a whole
Yeah.
quarter. Like we're kind of like, damn, is this game still on? But like the only issue that I take with and this is just being fair across the board. Like I have penalized teams who do not trust their quarterback. I've been getting on Alabama ass all year. I do not believe that you can win a national championship if you yourself are like quarterback, don't get in the way. Your quarterback is supposed to be your engine. When they were trying to put Arizona State away, what did Ewers do? He gave that bitch up. The worst. I mean, I wouldn't say he was wide open, but whoever he was throwing to down the field, he was open, and he threw a lollipop. It got picked off, and he got the wide receiver killed. That's what he does. Like Nick said, like y'all were saying earlier, if they can't run for 300, which I'm fairly confident in saying for the rest of the playoff, that's not going to happen. Yeah, a win is a win, and especially when it gets to the championship, I will have absolutely nothing to say. But this is a team that's been a double-digit favorite in both games, playing around with their food, right? So you were asking us, what are we going to be satisfied? But then you have to look at it. You can't just look at the final score and say, oh, well, they did this, but that's not how. Just how we said, it's not how, like basketball. You can look at the final, oh, where you won, but like football, you can be exposed for something, still win, but in the next weeks, it'll come up and be like, okay, Ohio State saw that shit today. They putting a ass one on Oregon. They like, okay, well, this team like to play around. We not nobody's food. Y'all gonna be our food.
No,
Like y'all.
but what's the game plan? So you're not confident Texas can't put together a game plan
No,
and execute it?
I'm not saying that. I'm just like I'm hesitant. Like just being fair across the board. Like a team that basically tells their quarterback from maybe they don't like iterate this, but like what the way they call the game sometimes is like don't get in the way. I just don't have faith that if you treat the engine of your team, this is a guy who was supposed to be the second coming. We were treating him like the heir apparent, and now they're like, okay, we want to win a playoff game. We got to keep the ball in his hands. He was trying to give that bitch up at the end of overtime. When they got the ball, he was trying to get that hold
Oh
up.
God.
No, bro, I don't think
Get
it's more
closer
so.
to the mic, man.
I think.
My bad. Y'all hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we hear you.
Yeah.
No, it's just the fact that I just think it's more so of a timing thing, like how the Dolphins run the offense with Tua. So, like we saw the explosive plays at the beginning, he throws a slant, he cribs it. So it's things like that. I think he's a very good timing quarterback. I would just say his arm strength is a little subpar compared to everybody else, but I like Quinn Ewers to be able to win these games.
Yeah, and I don't think Quinn Ewers is the problem because to kind of TJ's point, I don't think Quinn Ewers is on the. I don't think. Let me rephrase. I don't think Quinn Ewers and Steve Sarkisian are on the JJ McCarthy level of, hey, you're not finna throw the ball at all in the second half of this game. I think it's more so situationally, Texas feels like they're Texas feels like they can get away with not being aggressive on offense, and I just don't think that's a winning formula for them because, like, to TJ's point, you go all of those drives and you never put Arizona State away with a score, with that punctuation drive to really seal the door for Arizona State. You let them stay in the game. That's a problem. You got to think about how they were able to jump off on Arizona State early in this game. They scored a touchdown on their first drive, big play touchdown, 2 play drive, turn around, get the punt return touchdown, puts you up 14-0. Any coach will tell you a special teams touchdown is still in points. So
Right.
you're up 14-0 and then you don't score again until shit, you don't put another touchdown on the board until damn near the end of the second half. I mean, till the
Mhm.
end of the second quarter.
And you're going against a team
If
who's only got 2 players. Like they didn't beat y'all, but like they came back on y'all and they're up in overtime. They refuse to give the ball to anyone else. Like this mug is on the sideline throwing up, rolling around. The quarterback's about to die after every play, and they're like, "Okay, this is all we got." And like that's just why I think like
we
I
rolling.
that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I just think like it's something on the horizon. Like don't be surprised if we come next week. We're like, "Damn, what happened to Texas?" But like this is a team that telegraphed what they're gonna do. They don't have much left, and they still kind of were able to get it done. So it's not necessarily like, oh, Texas should be ashamed of itself, but like I feel like this needs to be mentioned. Like this team only has 2 players that they trust. They wouldn't get the ball to anybody else, and they still kind of found a way to. That's not gonna work with Ohio State because they literally have like six,
Exactly.
seven, 8 guys they
When
can
that
get. If
talent
you let
gap
them,
closes.
I'm saying like if they say okay, we can't get a ball to Smitty, we got 2 backs, we got a tight end, we got receiver, we got like, shit. You can like well, how I run up the middle one like they can do it. I'm not, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but like it's not like Arizona State and Clemson. Like you knock one person out, okay, you got it.
I just think that
And
the
I was about to say, you brought up Ohio State. I think it's a good time to kind of start talking about them because obviously what we see they're doing to Oregon, this is a different Ohio State team, in my opinion, than obviously than the one we saw at the beginning of the year when they lost to Oregon. But to me, this is even a different Ohio State team than the one we saw them lose to Michigan. So I want to see how you guys see this Ohio State team and how you see this team stacking up with this Texas team that we just saw as well.
I do a little transitioning, like, and the thing that we spend so much ink on Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers and this Texas offense the personnel wise is set up to look a lot like how unstoppable the Ohio State offense is. You got your big play guy in Bolden. You got a top 3 freshman in the country in Wingo. You got DeAndre Moore. You got the O line. You got Sark calling plays. In an ideal world, this team should be sleepwalking to 30, 35 points easily. And it just seems that the ease of which these points come by and the way that you guys can generate, chunk plays or not even generate chunk plays, put defenses on their heels. Obviously you talk about Sark being somebody that like the Tennessee stray and dissuade, but it just when you look at Ohio State with 2 losses, it just looks infinitely easier for them to generate chunk points for me than what Texas does, despite I would say, at least offensively, the personnel being pretty much 1-to-1. But talking about the actual Ohio State game, like I think we all know that there's nothing that you can do to replicate that mental edge or that feeling of vengeance that you got losing. You feel what I'm saying? Like nobody wants to, everybody wants to win every game possible, but the level of focus, attention to detail, and just simply motivation that you get from losing, especially a loss in Ohio State case to Michigan, that with it being probably the biggest rivalry in sports, but also a game that you knew you weren't supposed to lose. That was just the fine tuning that this team got in going to the playoffs that specifically the bye team didn't get. But also, you look at the Arizona State, them rolling over BYU, Tennessee just kind of by default of the SEC blowing up, getting in by default. SMU, they, in terms of national championship legitimacy, they weren't in the conversation. So I think in terms of teams that we considered national championship contenders and the level of motivation they had coming in to win this thing, and not in a situation like Tennessee or Penn State to where they're just happy to be here. I don't think Ohio State had the right amalgamation of factors to say, hey, we coming in this shit and we kicking ass. And, we had the talent and personnel to make it look like that. Ohio State was better than Oregon the last time. Or Ohio State would
I agree.
play better than Oregon last time in Autzen. So, and obviously, Vegas and sports betting, plays in hand. But we saw Ohio State be favored going into this game. I just never thought any point in the time that, I mean, we've all have our opinions about Dylan Gabriel. Nobody is writing home in this on this podcast about him. I just, even with that win, I never looked at Oregon and was like, that's the best team in the country.
Yeah, you told us in the group chat, you was like, I remember this is one of the first things you said. You was like, just because you stay don't mean you good. Like, just because you there, right? Just because they chose you doesn't mean that, because we look at guys that are the starters on other teams, we don't have no respect for them. Like, this was a good point by you, Josh. Just because you there don't mean, maybe Oregon won a guy that wasn't going to screw it up and they keep calling him the quarterback. That is not how you speak on, the game. That's not how you speak on bus drivers. That's how you talk about passengers. You talking about a point guard. This is football. That is not what you want to hear about a quarterback that you want to lead you to. Like, that is not a compliment you want the guy who is the quarterback. He is the difference. He's not the point guard. Like, that means here, you take it. That's dink and dunk. That's damning with faint praise. So if you're an Oregon fan, you're talking about, oh, well, he's the point guard of the team. That's not how you want your quarterback to be talked about or to be looked at. That's just me.
I mean, I'm gonna go with what you said, TJ. You talked about Dylan Gabriel, the way that he succeeds, like you said, point guard, distributing, getting the ball to his playmakers. In a game like this, after that, being the number 1 overall seed and getting into the second round, this is going to be a game to where you need a quarterback to be a playmaker. Again, with this pissed off defense and, just the lack of the horrible draw that they got as the number 1 overall seed. Like, this is a team that needed a quarterback that was going to make plays in order to get this win. And Dylan Gabriel, like you said, is not a playmaker. He's a guy that, directs plays to be made by getting to the explosive guy's hands. And that wasn't, like I guess I can give myself a little pat on the back. The pressure that they've created and his inability to be a guy, even like Will Howard when he's on, to throw guys open, create separation with the ball that he throws. Like, that's not.
Listen, I can't let you. Bro, I'm sorry. Just to throw Will Howard in there like that, I feel like even if you switch quarterbacks, the score would still be the exact same. This loss is not on Dylan Gabriel, bro. This loss is on.
You saying if you switch the quarterbacks?
Ohio State was still be winning higher than Dylan Gabriel's peak, though. We've seen Will Howard 2 out of the past 3 weeks now play significantly better than Dylan Gabriel's played all season.
Will Howard beat a national championship team, lest we forget.
No. He is nice. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, like, in this game, Ohio State versus Oregon, it wasn't on Dylan Gabriel's incapabilities to make plays.
So you're saying,
I mean, you say that, but who was the better quarterback in this game?
The best player was Jeremiah Smith shitting on these boys. That's the real problem.
That is true.
Like, let's be for real.
I mean, but yes, Jeremiah Smith is dominating this game. Yes, switching the quarterbacks might not be that much of a difference, but we saw the flaws in this Oregon team literally when we talked about the when we recapped the conference championships. We saw them play Penn State, a 40-something to 40-something Big Ten championship game. And the flaws for Oregon were evident there. You give up 40 to Penn State. That was the most they've given up all year. You continue to create the big plays, the big runs, but we all said it. You're not going to be able to create those big running lanes. You're not going to be able to get those same right after catch opportunities when a team gets in your face and plays hard-nosed defense. And we saw that with Ohio State today. They were able to dominate the line of scrimmage. The secondary was able to play sticky coverage, and Caleb Downs showed why he's a star in this game. Moving into the box, being able to play that free safety. This Ohio State defense is serious, and maybe the outcome wouldn't be so as different if you switch the quarterbacks. But I will say this: the script is out on Dylan Gabriel. It's been out on Dylan Gabriel. He's the guy who's going to complete the check down passes and not stretch the defense vertically. And at the end of the day, that's what cost them. If you look at Oregon's first 5-6 drives of this game, 3 plays punt, 3 plays punt, 7 plays punt, 7 plays turnover on downs. Dylan Gabriel isn't able to make those plays to convert those first downs and keep drives going because of the ding and dunk, whether it be the style of Oregon's offense or his own play. This just hasn't resulted in the results for Oregon. And this Ohio State defense has also played a big factor in that as well.
And I'll say it like this, obviously talk about Caleb Downs, like their front 7 group is, like I said, the reason why they won the game. But this is a secondary group very akin to Georgia, where, a good quarterback could expose this group. You feel what I'm saying? Like they struggled all year with pass interference, being too physical, stuff like that. So, here's the thing. You got, Ted Johnson, Evan Stewart. If Ohio State wanted to line up and play, too high and play man, those guys, he shouldn't have been able to hit those guys with the amount of separation that they create. And they want to drop into 4 and 3 deep. There are holes in zones that he should have been able, with the time and routes and the stuff that Landon runs in terms of scheming these guys open. Again, this was a
Hard with the
secondary that was.
pressure, though, by the way.
Say it again.
I just said hard with the pressure that Ohio State is able to generate as well.
No, I mean, again, they're a mitigating factor for sure. But this is a second that we've seen, be exposed before, and that Dylan Gabriel was a guy that it was an elevator from a point guard to a playmaker that he could have exposed too. But like Nick said, outside of the pressure that was in his face with the front seven and all year, it was my guys showed up and your guys didn't. Ohio State got fully black Kyle Hamilton coming down in the box, like you said, Nick. And again, it was a situation that, like I said, it's all theoretical now. But hell, we talk about switching jerseys. Take out Dylan Gabriel and put in the young boy Sam Levitt and the stuff that he can do off schedule. Oregon might have a better chance in this game right now. I'm just saying.
Like Oregon doesn't have, like, I look at a bunch of good guys that have been assembled. Oregon does not have that one dude like Ohio State has a Smith. You're like, you can't let him get off. Like Oregon has put together a really good, fundamentally sound coach team on both sides of the ball, but they don't really have that one guy that's like, okay, if Dylan Gabriel was a Heisman finalist, like, that's like you earned this. You've been in college for so long, but like, are we sure that they're winning because of him? Maybe they're not winning in spite of him, but that doesn't mean that you're winning because of him. I don't see a guy on Oregon, like maybe it was supposed to be Evan Stewart. The running backs, they can play, but like Nick was saying, like we talked about before, that shit that they were doing in the Big Ten championship game was not sustainable. That shit was not realistic. They were running through 10-foot gaps. Like that is not what Penn State does. However, they got Penn State punked like that to get blown off the ball. If they sat down and watched film, they being Ohio State, that shit was never gonna happen again. Like that's just not something that you see from men who take pride in football, who get paid to do it, who dedicate their time. They just getting their ass punked off the ball, which is what we saw Penn State do, and they made it a concerted effort in these two games. We're not gonna do that. Ohio State saw the film. You don't want to be that person that keeps repeating the mistake. Oregon was not gonna do that shit again. And once, just like Texas, once they couldn't run over you, who has the guys but Texas, to their credit, has a lot of supreme playmakers on both sides. They don't just they got the best corner in football. They have probably the best D line. They got linebacker. They can stretch you out. They can put it on you. Oregon just is like, okay, well, we got 13 wins. We're good. We're cool. But I'm not like, I'm looking through. I'm like, where is the guy? Where is like the
Yeah, nobody on the Oregon team. I mean, Ted Johnson is a hell of a player. But the point, bullet out to, nobody off Oregon's team really truly strikes fear into you on the scouting report.
Ted Johnson getting a neck massage on the sideline.
So no, it is what it is, and like I said, I give myself a pat on the back. But we all saw this. We all saw this same vein of like, they got that one by their name for most of the year, but I don't think none of us were thoroughly convinced that this is the best team in college football. And if they were, there certainly was a slim to none margin with it being that way.
I mean, what's crazy is if this was a 14 playoff, they would have had a better chance to have.
Yeah, because they'd already be where they are.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, that is a good
crazy.
Point. Same with Penn State, but like honestly, Penn State would have just probably lost the semifinal game if they're gonna do that again. Like, so now we're gonna go, Penn State won 2 playoff games, but if it was a 14 playoff, they'd already be in the semis and they still lose, and we'd be kind of back to where we were.
All they would have had to do is be better than Georgia for one game if there's BCS, which is
right. Yeah, that is true.
I mean, but also, and it's something I want to get into a little bit, but like we talk about the same way that like AP rankings in football and basketball, it matters where you're coming from. A lot of it matters where you're coming from previously, season expectations, honestly. And there you see that differentiation, with the quality of the game, but also the teams that's coming in, SMU and Clemson for sure, but even Penn State or Tennessee, nobody, I don't think any of these fans for these programs, they had some true serum, expected to be, they were just happy to be a part of this. They can put it on their mantle, part of the first playoff, was in competition for a national championship. But I think when you look at Ohio State, Texas, or Oregon, even a Georgia before Beck got hurt, I would say, getting to this round was the base level of expectation. The goal was a national championship. And, I think if the college football players are going to determine, who we think to determine the 12 teams that we think have the best shot at, being national championship contenders. Inherently, there's a flaw because you're almost never going to get a season where you have 12 teams that that can truly be title contenders. But also, like I hate to say it at this level, but you got the highest level of bottom feeders essentially. You're gonna always have this dynamic where half of the bracket just happy to be there, and you gotta, like I said, whatever the result is, they can tuck their head and say, "Oh, we was in the playoff," and I just don't think that this is what that was designed for. Like I said, like Ohio State, Oregon, like two national championship contenders, but we lamented the first round enough. But do we think that either, like I said, we know how Penn State's been the little brother in the Big Ten for how many years? Like, I don't think that they had national championship aspirations. We know Boise didn't. We know where Arizona State was picked preseason. So when it comes down to it, you're seeing a lot of these mismatches, and we're complaining about the games, but we need to take a step back and realize, are these teams even supposed to be here? What are these expectations that we had coming in? So, like I
I
said,
will say for Penn State, they did have the aspirations because they have the name brand guys, the talent to get it done.
Yeah, but they always do.
Yeah.
I
And
was
so this is an opportunity to get them some wins. And so now literally they're technically in the Final Four now. They got to avoid playing Ohio State in the CFP, got to avoid playing Michigan. They don't got to play the guys that beat you up and keep you out of the playoff. So now that they're in it, they got to take on either Notre Dame or Georgia next week, who are guys they've never played. You never know what's going to happen in an opportunity.
I think they can beat Notre Dame. I do not think they can. I do not think they will beat Georgia if Georgia were there. But if Notre Dame is to beat,
I feel like it's opposite, which is crazy. But
oh, you think they can?
Just because, and right now, as it stands, there's 5 teams left. We don't know the outcome of Georgia or Notre Dame. But with that being said, I say all 5 defenses are elite that's left here.
Yeah, I agree.
And when it comes to offenses, I would probably give them the 2 spot if it's for me, right behind Ohio State. So
Or like their offensive personnel.
Yeah, that's what I would. I mean, it's either them or Texas in my mind. But I would give Penn State the advantage. That's just me though. So I feel like this definitely gives them the opportunity, as long as they don't have to play Ohio State in the Natty, which would be crazy because they'll probably lose that. I won't lie to you, but I like their chances.
I don't know. Like I said, I mean, it looks like, at least obviously in this current iteration of the playoff, vying for the highest seed possible is not the best way to work your way through this bracket. So
Yeah,
I think they felt more of a fortunate situation than, I would say true national championship contender, because like I said, I think they were probably even with this bracket, they were the third best team in the Big Ten. Okay, whatever. They didn't beat Ohio State and they had 1 million fans and they had 4 chances on 4th down and all that. But you can only play who you can play, and like you said, being in the Final Four, that means something to that program. But I just think that even with that, even in this stage, like I said, literally the Final Four, there's a different level of expectation with maybe Georgia's a little different now with Stockton in, but Texas and Ohio State came to win this thing. Oregon came to win this thing, and I just don't feel like that with Penn State.
that's crazy. All right.
Well, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Nah, you got it. I was gonna move somewhere, so you got it, either.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, again, like if there was a 4-team playoff, will we be certain they made it? Probably not. Will they end up going the literal exact same distance? I think so. I mean, I'm sure people will disagree, but like if they don't win the semifinal game, if there was a 4-team playoff, I don't think they would have won the semifinal game. There's no way to know. It's just a projection, but it's all the same. But of course, their fans want to be like, oh, well, we won 2 playoff games. What have you won? Like they just want to use that and like lunch table talk, like kind of how we won 2 playoff games. We can't fire the coach now.
Nah, that's the point, because it's like
you don't take him seriously.
In any sense of big game, that James Franklin got that lemon booty. Like we
thought, who do you take more seriously? Texas or Penn State?
Texas. And we just spent the first 10 minutes lamenting how we don't think how their process ain't the best either. But nah, Penn State, they damn near in that. I don't know. I didn't want to group them in that Clemson, SMU category, Indiana category.
I have to take just like Penn State. Like I feel like Texas plays down, but I'll give them this: they'll play up every now and then. Like they will go down with you, and they'll play around with a 10 seed or whatever seed. But if they have the number 1 team, like I know they didn't beat Georgia, but like they gave Georgia hell in that second game. Definitely, like the first game it was sloppy, but like that game was never like, oh, Texas hasn't, like they will play up, they will play down. I just don't see Penn State, like Penn State was playing around a little bit too much yesterday, and that might be the worst team out of the playoff. They really only have one quality player. I mean, it was playing around yesterday.
I'm
I
pretty much.
mean,
I think talking about who do we trust more, whatever. To me, I think both of these teams lose in the quarterfinal. But I will say I have more faith in this Penn State team because they do two things that travel really well, and that is run the ball. You think of that dynamic backfield they have with Katron and Singleton, and then they are also able to rush the passer and play very good defense on the other end. We just saw what they were able to hold Ashton Genty to, and we know the damage that Abdul Carter can create on opposing quarterbacks. So that's what gives me more faith in Penn State. Obviously, James Franklin has the big bugaboo, and obviously, we haven't seen Texas be able to put a team away. But if you were to ask me, especially in a head-to-head, who would I trust more? I think I would have to trust Penn State more, even though, like I said, I see both of these teams losing in the next round.
No, I ain't mad at you. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, so I mean, anything else we need to
Oh, I mean, we
recap
do need
before
to.
we?
I mean, we can talk about Notre Dame, Georgia a little bit. You feel what I'm saying? I think that. I mean, it sucks that I don't know. Injury seems to decided the outcome of this game more than anything else. But we talk about teams, playing with their foot a little bit. I think that Indiana would, of the Power Five schools, definitely one of the more undeserving teams to get in the playoff. We saw just, I don't know. We got Jeremiah Love and a little bit else. Like that's also a team that doesn't create a ton of the same way with Penn State. They have played down, but I don't know if they had the offensive personnel to play up per se. So I don't know if Stockton can come in and do what he was doing in the SEC championship game outside of that one interception. I think that Georgia may have more of a puncher's chance than what they're getting credit for right now.
Listen, man, only thing I have to say about this is like we've seen the excuses that the SEC teams have not done good at all in the bowl season.
Yeah.
And I don't expect anything to change with Georgia and Notre Dame. It's not going to be a crushing defeat. Even Texas today was like it was a close game. They should have blown them out, like you guys said. We played with our food, but they still came out with the win. But you're not going to see anything in terms of Georgia just dominating Notre Dame. That's what I think. That's what the gut feeling I have.
I feel. I mean, you talk like group by group. I think that the only clear advantage I would say that Georgia has, depending on Tate Redledge and his health, is that defensive front, that front seven. But no, everywhere else, I think it's a pretty even draw. And I would say, I don't know too much about Penn State secondary, but we know for sure that Georgia secondary is a weakness. So there is at least the personnel wise that tip of tat. Like I said, the same way that we're saying Georgia has a puncher's chance because I mean SEC bias and the talent of the backup coming in. But again, Notre Dame is here for a reason too. Everybody, and at this point, you're not gonna have any unflawed teams. The NIU loss, yeah, whatever. Riley Leonard perpetually turning the ball over, yeah, but it's like I go back to the same way that we lament the Chiefs and the Eagles for the process that they go through, every weekend winning. They continue to stack wins. So that is at this point, process it's even less of a factor, and it turns and more so, I ain't trying to see the label, just show me the baby. So I think that they're in a spot to where they can, I don't know, they should have some sort of level of expectation that they get to this Final Four, but yeah, they don't need to play with their foot to underestimate this team in any way because we saw how Georgia rallied around Stockton when he first came in, and we've seen how Beck has played all year. So all that Stockton really realistically needs to do is that same distributed point guard role that we know Dylan Gabriel for,
Right.
and this Georgia offense will look a lot similar and maybe more consistent than what they look like with Beck all season.
And they have playoff DNA. Like we talk about this in a good way, we talk about it in the bad way. Like when they rally around Stockton, like it wasn't much he had to do. Like this team just went to the SEC championship. What 4 out of 5 times they just won 2 natties. Like that team is built to where the guy under center is not the end all be all. And if that's how you want to build your team, then respect. But like we have this drawback when we talk about a guy that was supposed to be whoever it may be, whether it be Milrow, whether it be Ewers, a guy that was supposed to be the engine and they don't end up. That's harder for teams to adjust to. But when you build your team like Georgia to where the quarterback doesn't always have to be that guy, and you want to run the ball, you want to hit. Like y'all talking about the secondary, they do kind of have issues. They like eye candy. They love to look in the backfield. They have coverage busts. Like Texas was running past them the whole SEC championship game. I'm surprised that game didn't get uglier at first, just because the way they were. Like even in the Bama game, they are not disciplined at times. But Kirby Smart is a defensive guy. They've been there. The guys on the team have been there. You saw the crazy stat about the seniors have never lost a home game. Some crazy shit like that. Like they have the. I know this is not a home game, but like they have the DNA. I think both teams have DNA, whether Notre Dame's not be so positive, but I think you see that take over. You saw that Texas just has a little bit more in the tank, and that took over. You saw that Arizona State just doesn't have that much left. Maybe they didn't have that much to begin with, and that kind of took over. You see that Penn State want to play bully ball, that took over. You just kind of see these things like when you talk about Clemson, they were not well rounded, and that takes over. So I think we're gonna continue to see the theme of whatever a team's built for, good or bad, will continue to take over moving forward.
Oh, Jimmy Butler appearance. Shout out. I thought he was getting traded by now, but hey, we love that. We want to do predictions about here.
Yeah, and I'll kick the predictions off. And for me, I got to roll with Georgia. I think to TJ's point, they're going to hone in on that identity. We're going to get a heavy dose of Trevor Etienne, who's finally fully healthy after coming into the season, injured, banged up over the course of the season and some more. And I think a big key to that is going to be Notre Dame missing Riley Mills, their star defensive tackle. Had 7.5 sacks this year, was able to cause a lot of disruption. So I think the combination of Trevor Etienne along with energized Georgia defense, I like Georgia in this one.
You go, Vance. I want to hear your opinion next, brother.
I mean, it really just feels like it feels like a pick 'em in my eyes. But after seeing Texas and Arizona State, like I said, the SEC, they're not really impressing anyone. But I do think I have to rock with TJ with the championship DNA. And with that being said, I think it's going to be really close. It's going to be low scoring, but I believe Georgia can get it done. Their defense will make some plays and get it done for them.
Peace. Mr. Bush, what you got, sir?
I like Georgia. I'm gonna give y'all a score. I'm gonna go a step further. I like 27-21. I think they'll hit a couple field goals. Somebody will miss extra point. Somebody will have to go for two. I think no one's gonna run it up. I think maybe in order the difference of this game, one team might get a stop and then they might have to play keep away. It's not gonna be like today where we saw make it, take it, you got it. Let's run it up at the end and flex our offensive muscle. I think who has the bigger, badder defense, who's going to be disciplined, and who is going to do a little bit more than we think they will. Whether it be Riley Leonard, will he throw the ball a little bit better than we think he will, or will it be Stockton? Will he be a little bit more composed in this big moment than we think he will? So whoever kind of does the unexpected in a good way, I think they'll pull out. I like 27-21 Georgia. I'm going with.
Damn, it's gonna be a sweep with the backup quarterback. That's kind of crazy. I think it comes down to the fact we've seen and obviously load the box and blitz the rookie and the inexperienced quarterback, but we've seen Georgia be the team with that had a better front seven and had a better running back. You feel what I'm saying? So I just think that like what I talk about with championship DNA and the formula that Notre Dame is going to try to deploy, Georgia has seen. That's kind of the base formula for the SEC. I feel like Georgia has seen better iterations of Notre Dame throughout the season. So I'll take Georgia as well. So
I will caveat this that if there's an O line that can keep up with the pass rush of Georgia, it's Notre Dame. And if they can't do it, nobody in this CFP, except for maybe Ohio State, can keep up with the pass rush of Georgia.
And I'm gonna throw this out there too, bro. My little hot take, bold prediction for the game. I don't think Gunnar Stockton puts the ball in the air, like throws the ball more than 15 times, bro. Talking about Georgia honing in on that identity, I think it's gonna be real.
He got to do more than
run
that.
Through a motherfucking face ball tomorrow, bro.
So you thinking like he finna go like 7 for 13, something like that?
I'm thinking he gonna be like, yeah. I'm thinking I don't think he gonna be bad. Like a little 7 for 14,
right?
A little right above 50%. But I think he gonna tote the fuck out that rock though, bro.
He gonna drop that head. He might get dropped right back, but he gonna drop that right there. So
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
that sound right along the line with the proper amount of pass attempts. The only thing I'll push back and say, do you want to give the back that just got fully healthy 30 carries? Because if you're talking about throwing it 15 times with Stockton, ETN's going to get 28, 29, 30
well,
carries.
they got Frazier
They
too.
got two of them,
They
gang.
got
If,
Frazier.
That's
if
what
he
I was
don't put
gonna
on the
say.
ground, I mean,
ETN
the last
and
it was literally bench for putting on the ground and put on the ground the SEC
And
championship.
they got that white boy too. They got the white back. He great.
hey,
I'll be
fact.
Georgia care though. You saw him throw Carson
I'm
Dick
about to
out
say
there and had that bitch off
they'll
with one
bro, they
arm.
can we talk about how the fact that they just lied and said he injured his hand when we clearly seen his elbow do a 360 like we don't all have like TVs and his hand, man. Like he was literally in 4K in the middle of the field. Every angle caught his arm doing this. You're like, yeah, his hand. And you don't know, man.
I mean, that's another thing too. Like, like you said, TJ, I think that at least public notice wise, there was some sort of speculation up in there what the status would be. But I'm pretty sure that Georgia team has known that Stockton was going to start the minute they saw
Oh yeah,
Beck's hand doing a stanky leg on the
they
side.
probably
Everybody
took
knew
him to
that.
the X-ray room right then and there, saw his shit, and then just straight up lied for like 3 weeks, talking about we'll see. Because even if he was healthy enough to play, like he's always going to be one good hit away from. Now y'all finna ruin his career if he decides to declare. You can't even play like that.
To a timing for sure. And I think that you talk about Stockton, obviously, this again, 4-star guy, being in the SEC program like this, he's had a month to prepare, and there's no tape on him. So
Right.
they don't, Penn State doesn't know necessarily, or Notre Dame, jumping ahead. Notre Dame doesn't know what to expect in terms of what is, his high routes, who are the guys that he like to target, some of his tendencies. So, he's working from a truly clean slate. And, with that clean of a slate, they got, quarter and a half of what he did in the SEC championship game. But he's as the unknown can be the scariest, at times. And they
I mean, do you expect Georgia to open up the full playbook for him? Do you think they would?
yeah, the
I
month to
mean,
prepare,
You
they
got to
might
think
as
about
well.
it. They didn't had 2 weeks off. Well, 2 weeks off plus.
and no one will see that shit coming. Like, let's say Stockton did a fucking flea flick on the first play and threw that bitch 70 yards. None of us would have seen that shit coming, and that's exactly how you gain that advantage.
I mean,
So
the team
I
did
don't.
rally around him, but it wasn't like he just won the game for them.
I mean, you can't treat him like you're waiting for Carson Beck
But
to
he
walk through
had them
that
in the
door.
position to win the
I'm
game.
about to say because
I mean,
Carson
he
Beck's
didn't
not
mess
walking
him
through
up.
He made
that.
some big. It wasn't like down for accuracy stuff, but he made some timely throws.
He made some good throws. He made some bad throws.
You can't babysit him because that I think that'll reverse his growth, and like you might shell shock him if you treat him like, okay, we want you to play quarterback till Carson Beck comes back, because he's never walking back through that door again unless he decides to come back, even though he said he was declaring. Like, you got to let him know, like, this is your show, because not only are these games the end of this season, these games act as the beginning of next season if you have like younger guys. Like, so we're looking at it like, okay, you've got a freshman quarterback, okay, you're good going forward. Or if you have an older quarterback, what are you going to do? So these bowl games aren't just, these are almost like somewhat of exhibition games for next year, especially when you have like a big position like quarterback or a top back or a left tackle maybe that are going to be gone. You kind of have to see what you have. So even if, not to say they don't care about winning a game, but like, let's say, God forbid, Notre Dame jumps on them and you're like, oh shit, well, you can't just let the quarterback, phone it in because you want him to be your guy. So I think it's more at stake than just let's win this game, let's get another ring. Like, you kind of have to set a plan going forward.
Yeah, like Nick said.
And
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to your point, TJ, how he handles that first adversity is gonna be big, because obviously he might know in the back of his head, but he's essentially not only trying to win Georgia a ring this year, he's auditioning for his job next year as
Right.
well. So there's a lot of pressure on him, and Georgia's gonna have to be able to manage that as they continue to pursue a college football playoff championship.
One thing before we close out, Nick. Line just dropped for Texas Ohio State game. I'll throw it to you first, Vancy. What do you think? What do you think the line is? The game, if you haven't seen it.
Ohio State minus 3.5.
Five
Damn there. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
on
yeah.
I was
ESPN,
gonna
4.5.
say four
I
and a
think it's
half.
FanDuel. So, I mean, Vegas, that's the big dawn out here. And I think anything over 3.5 is interesting at this level of competition, and a signifier of one team does appear to be at least some very small but distinguishable level of better than the other.
I mean, if there is somebody that can stop Jeremiah Smith, it's Malik Muhammad. That's the only silver lining in all of this. So
Well, that's if he wants to be stopped because we looking at him now like this kid.
I mean, yeah.
This kid,
Colin Simmons might get to the
He,
quarterback
he
5
forgot he
times.
got
You
that
never
surgery.
know.
He on that Serge Ibaka timing for sure. That boy definitely
yeah.
27.
Like I said before we got on the thing, I was like, I've never seen a freshman make this. Not even just like he looks like he fits, but like
The
I
best
can't think of a
player.
time where I'm saying like it's been a while since I've seen like I think back to like when Stingley was one of the best corners in football as a freshman. Like it's been a long time since we've seen like not just a good transition, but like oh, are we so sure he's not the best wide? We're not talking about best freshman receiver no more. We talking about the best.
Yeah.
Period.
He was Big Ten receiver of the year. It ain't had shit fresh behind it. So
Right.
He would go top 5 this year in the draft if he could.
Right.
He's
If I was
that
him,
good.
if they don't get a good quarterback, shit, the way that the college football landscape is, I might never put on another Ohio State uniform again and just be like, y'all call me in 2 years. I'm going to hit the beach somewhere. I'm going to stay because, well, look, Jamar did it. Jamar started 1 year of college football, came back, and one of the best. Like, come on, it's
Michael
been done
Parsons
before.
did it. Like,
I'm about to say,
which Ohio State is the original with Maurice Claret. So it would be fitting in a sense if he did, decide to make that decision.
Amongst other reasons, but
my bad. I through that I forgot about all the history. You right, my bad.
Yeah, they had the little 30 for 30. That's the only reason I remember his name.
Nah, you right. But no, it's I think we out of here, Nick. It's a lot of damn good football. I feel like at least we got to bounce back from the first round, especially with that Texas Arizona State game. But shit, it's on the table now. So whoever gonna have that shit for grabs, regardless of how we feel about them getting here, or some of the inherent flaws or some of these matchup problems,
right.
Only got to win 2 games.
Since we hating,
y'all are, bro. my team's still in the playoff, bro. Y'all hate it.
This man moved to Texas and got like his 17 on the bandwagon.
Oh my god!
Oh god!
I don't even know what jersey to put on.
No, y'all.
That boy got a split jersey with 7 different teams.
Yeah, it's a tri jersey, bro. It's Memphis in the middle, bro. It's always gonna be Memphis, but Miami and Texas they on the sides.
So who would you have rooted for if Miami got?
My nigga, that's a brochure because you got the 2 other ends on the. That's fine.
I was born in Memphis, bro. Don't do that, bro. I was born there, raised in East Memphis. Bro. I moved to Mississippi. Get it right, bro.
Nigga, not an Ole Miss fan, Mississippi State fan.
He said it like that was his green beans on the table. No cap, bro. Hey, we out of here though. We done, baby.
Good.
I changed my pick anyways, bro. Notre Dame for sure.
I'm about to say somebody got to pick them.